Number 1 is Northwind Joy, owned by Carl Kramer Jr. of Mount Victory, Ohio, trained by Dan McCulloch with Jason Brewer. Number 2 is Ms. Oak, owned and trained by John Perrin of Lebanon, Ohio, with Sandy Beatty. Number 3 is Sarah's Blaze, owned by Charles McDonough, Springfield, Ohio, trained by Chris Justice, Justin Hall at the lines. Number 4 is Sandman's Impact, owned and trained by Ronald Gellerman of Sardinia, Ohio, with Jeff Ace Nisunger. Number 5 is Eternal Freedom, owned by Donna McClure of Lebanon, Ohio, trained by Tom Horner Jr. Jim Daly is up. The 6 is Forever Flourish, owned by Richard Brooks of Brookville, Ohio, trained and driven by Bob Harper. Number 7 is Major Baby, owned by Inge Niemski of Sardinia, Ohio, trained by Lezik Niemski, Sam Chip Noble III. Number 8 is Linda Linnell, owned by Charles Blankenship of Asheville, Ohio, trained by Carl Bray, Dave Hawk. The 9 is Holiday Beach, owned by Val Bame of Columbus, Ohio, trained by Jack Franklin. Kyle Later is up. And scoring from off the second tier is number 10, I'm a Rain Dancer, owned by Olive Brannigan of Jamestown, Ohio, trained by Mark Wagner, Danny Noble, Ian Hersulke. They're all fan pacing and stepping out of there for the lead. There goes Ms. Oak. From the outside, there is Forever Flourish. Also driving out is Holiday Beach. They're stacked up 3 deep as they race around the first turn and over to the opening quarter. Coming away in 4th, that is Northwind Joy protecting the rail there. Got to the outside in 5 is Major Baby. 6th is Sarah's Blaze. 7th, that is I'm a Rain Dancer. 8th along the inside is Sandman's Impact. 9th there, that is Eternal Freedom. And 10th and trailing the field is Linda Linnell. And Dave Hawk can see them all as they step by the opening quarter in 28 seconds flat, and a royal scramble for command, and now clearing to the front end here. Forever Flourish clears to the front end, but Holiday Beach has been parked the first 3/8 of a mile and is trying to clear to the front end here, and does so now. Holiday Beach clears to the front end. Forever Flourish is racing in 2. Ms. Oak is going along in 3rd. 4th to the outside is Major Baby. 5th along the rail is Northwind Joy. A move to the outside in 6th is I'm a Rain Dancer as they step towards the half. They're halfway home in 57 1/5. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Fillies and Mares heads are pointed towards 3/4, and Holiday Beach with the lead here and leads it by a length and 3/4. Grinding it out on the outside, racing in 2, that is Major Baby. Forever Flourish could not go with him from 3rd. First over the outside in 4th, that is Northwind Joy, and swung up 3 wide from 5th. Here comes I'm a Rain Dancer as they step towards the 3/4 mile mark of the race, and Holiday Beach with the lead here. Major Baby is drawn closer in 2nd. 3/4 in 1:27 2/5. They'll pace the final turn and head for home, and Holiday Beach with the lead here. Major Baby is still right there on the inside in 2. I'm a Rain Dancer has got closer in 3rd as they turn to the top of Heartbreak Lane. Less than an 1/8 of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come. Holiday Beach with the lead here. Major Baby, I'm a Rain Dancer, and way out wide Eternal Freedom is charging hard and coming on as they come to the wire. Eternal Freedom explodes here in the stretch to get up to win it. I'm a Rain Dancer to go 2nd. Sandman's Impact was 3rd. The time of the mile, 1:58 1/5. Eternal Freedom in a new Lifetime March. A 4-year-old chestnut mare by Wilco's Jester out of a Broadway option. She by Broadway Express. Owned by Donna McClure of Lebanon, Ohio. Trained by Tom Horner Jr. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Jim Daly. The 5, Eternal Freedom, new Lifetime Mark, 1:58 1/5. Being greeted in the winner's circle as she will throughout the night by Chrissy Fout. 5:10.4 is now official. 5:10 exact to 82.20. 5:10.4 try returns 379.80. Having a cookout stable of Old Forge, Pennsylvania, trained by Peter Foley with Jeff Fout. Number 2 is Abby Craig with the Sterling Brook Farms Incorporated in Sheltonville, Massachusetts, trained by Jim Artledge Jr., Dave Hawk. The 3 is Cherry Tree Luke, owned by Alan Kirchenbaum of Burbank, California, trained and driven by Smilin' Joe Adamski. Number 4 is Precious Iliad, owned by Barbara Schneider of Waynesville, Ohio, who also does the training. Bob Harper is up. The 5 is Lady Marino, owned by William Myers and Ron Taubert of Dayton, Ohio, trained and driven by Ron Taubert. Number 6 is Call for Joy, owned and trained by Jack Inagel of Jackson, Ohio. Justin Hall is up. The 7 is Bobber B, owned by Marcia Miller of Washington Courthouse, Ohio, trained by Jesse Bullen with Jim Daly. The 8 is Shops for Dresses, owned by Millard, Esty, Burns, and Fraser, that are of Ohio and Ontario, Canada, trained and driven by the Big T, Terry Tim Houghton. Number 9 is Contagious with the Bulliard Farm of Greenville, Ohio, trained and driven by Jeff Bulliard, and scoring from off the second tier, number 10, Pocket Full of Rye, owned by Noah, Blacklick, Ohio, and Simmons of Granville, Ohio, trained and driven by Jeff Collins, Ian Herselke. Field in motion. They're all fan trotting in, firing out of there, middle of the track. There goes the 4, Precious Elliott. Driving up from the outside, there is Contagious. Looking to drop in, racing in third. From the outside of that is Call for Joy. In there, racing in fourth is Lady Marino. Trotting in 5, that is Abby Craig. Sixth and dropping in there, that is Shops for Dresses. Seventh along the inside is College Park, goes off stride. Ninth is Pocket Full of Ryan. 10th and trailing the field, that is Bobber B. As they trot towards the opening quarter on top of the field, leading the way here through the opening quarter, that is Contagious. 29 and 2/5. Along the inside, Precious Elliott trots in second. Off stride went the 6, Call for Joy, but as Abby Craig trots onto the front end tier, Abby Craig rolling into the wire with 5/8 of a mile remaining, and Abby Craig onto the front end. Contagious will yield for a garden spot, racing in 2. Precious Elliott trots in third. Gap at 2, trotting in fourth. Lady Marino trotting in 5 is Shops for Dresses, and in Shops for Dresses is wheel to the outside, trotting in 5. Pocket Full of Rye will follow the cover, second over the outside in 6. As they trip the half, they're halfway home in 1 minute and 3/5. Off the turn and driving down the backside, and Abby Craig with the lead here along the inside. Contagious is trotting in second. First over on the rim, trotting in third. That is Shops for Dresses. Along the inside in fourth is Precious Elliott. Second over the outside, trotting in 5. Pocket Full of Rye, and swung out 3 wide from 6. That is Bobber B. Seventh on the inside, and Lady Marino to the outside in 8th. That is Cherry Tree Luke. 9th is College Park, and 10th and trailing the field, Call for Joy. 3/4 and 1:31 flat. They'll trot the final turn and head for home, and Abby Craig, the 3 to 5 punter's choice, leads it here by a widening 2.5, 3 lengths to the inside. Contagious is trying to go with her in second as they turn to the top of the stretch. Less than 1/8 of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come, driving through Power Alley. Abby Craig with the lead. Contagious is going to take a shot at her, but as they drive within the final 16th, Abby Craig in front. Contagious to go second. Third of the mile was the 4, Precious Elliott. Fourth is the 10, Pocket Full of Rye. The time of the mile, 2 minutes, 3/5. Abby Craig in her first career victory. Trot timed in 2 minutes and 3/5 to establish a new lifetime mark. Here's the 2, Abby Craig, a 2-year-old bay filly by Muscles Yankee out of a Garland Bonita. She by Garland Lobel with the Sterling Brook Farms Incorporated of Sheltonville, Massachusetts, trained by Jim Artledge Jr. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Dave Hawk. First career victory. 2 minutes, 3/5. The 2, Abby Craig and Dave Hawk. 2-9-4-10 is now official. 2-9-4-10 is now official. $4.20, 2-9 exact, $23 even, 2-9-4 try, 85.20. Number 1 is San Northern Star, owned by Bill Sanders of Stevenson, Alabama, trained by Jim Artledge Jr., Dallas Miller. Number 2 is Jelly's Best Jam, owned by Michael Bardo, Bradford, Ohio, trained by Dan Perdue. Jim Daly is up. Number 3 is Lacey Nukes, owned by James Urchelio of Warsaw, Indiana, trained by Joe Essig, Bob Harper. Number 4 is Kate the Great, owned by Kentuckiana Racing Stable in Lexington, Kentucky, trained by Peter Foley, Jeff Neissonger. Number 5 is Rockin' D, with the Rockwell Farm Stable Incorporated of Hilliard, Ohio, trained by Robert Carsey. Dave Hawk is up. Number 6 is Cam Bass Girl, owned by Richard Garrison of Frankfort, Ohio, trained by Brett Ader, Jeff Fount. And for the outside of the 7 is Our Rotten Ruby, owned and trained by Ralph Calvert Jr. of Racine, Ohio, Bill Long Jr., Ian Herselke. Field in motion. being sent on their way. They're all fan pacing and firing for the lead. There goes Kate the Great. Driving up middle of the track, that is Rockin' D. From the outside, there is Cam Bass Girl, who is driving on for command. Cam Bass Girl is looking for the lead here. On the inside, Kate the Great is racing in second, and Rockin' D is up on the outside in third and looking for the lead. A gap at 2 and fourth. That is Lacey Nukes. Another gap at 2 and fifth is San Northern Star. A gap of 4 racing there in sixth. That is as they race by the opening quarter. Jelly's Best Jam in seventh and trailing the field, Our Rotten Ruby. The opening quarter was a quick one, 27 and 1/5 for these 2-year-old pacing fillies. And on top of the field, Rockin' D leads the way here along the inside. Cam Bass Girl is tracking her from the garden spot, racing in 2. Kate the Great is unhurried in third, racing in fourth, and a bit closer there. That is Lacey Nukes. A bit closer, racing in 5 is Jelly's Best Jam. Sixth along the inside, Our Rotten Ruby in seventh and trailing the field after the break is San Northern Star. They trip the halfway mile beam of the race in 58 and 3/5. Off the turn and driving down the backside, 2-year-old pacing fillies will start their long journey towards 3/4 with Rockin' D leading the way here by a length and a half. Along the inside, racing in second, that is Cam Bass Girl. Now first to flush, coming with a rush on the outside in third. Here's Lacey Nukes along the inside in fourth. That is Kate the Great. Second over the outside in 5 is Our Rotten Ruby. Sixth is Jelly's Best Jam, and seventh and trailing the field, San Northern Star. As they approach the 3/4 mile mark of the race, 3/4 in 1:29 and 3/5. They'll pace the final turn and head for home. And Rockin' D with a flip of the whip here opens up by 2.5 to the outside. Lacey Nukes could not go with her. Cam Bass Girl along the inside is third, and swung up 3 wide is Our Rotten Ruby. Off the turn and driving through Power Alley. On top of the field, Rockin' D with the lead here to the inside. Cam Bass Girl. Kate the Great is coming to her and coming on. Rockin' D to the inside. Kate the Great on the outside. These two to the wire. Photo for a win. Finishing third was the 6 Cam Bass Girl at the top of the mile, 1:59 flat, 59 flat to establish her first career victory. Here's the 4 Kate the Great. A 2-year-old bay filly by Arts Place out of a Jate Straight. She by Jate Lobel by the Kentuckiana Racing Stable, Lexington, Kentucky. Trained by Peter Foley. Nicely handled here this evening by wedding driver Jeff Ace Nicesonger. Kate the Great, first career victory, 1:59 flat. Currently at a tote delay. The pick 3, 2 of 3, 524, 327.80. Number 1 is Mara's Mojo. The Budweiser Best Bet of the Night is owned by Brent Allen and Misty Joe Perry of Medina, Ohio, trained by Danny Perdue with Dave Hawk. Number 2 is Jenna Zonjodi, owned by Kenneth Sommer of Sheffield, Ohio, trained by Kelly O'Donnell. Kyle Later is up. The 2 is CJ's Connection, owned by Bill Robinson of Oregonia, Ohio, trained and driven by Mark Winters. Number 4 is Sand Showgirl by Bill Sanders of Stevenson, Alabama, trained by Jim Artledge Jr., Dallas Miller. Number 5 is Champagne Diva, owned by Michael Bardo and Danny Perdue, both of the Buckeye State, trained by Dan Perdue. Jim Daly is up. From the outside of the 6 is Ailey Hanover, owned by Steve Jones of Montgomery, New York, trained and driven by Sam Chip Noble III. Ian Hersalke. Field in motion. They're all fan pacing and firing away. Middle of the track, there goes the 4 Sand Showgirl. Driving up from the outside, there is Ailey Hanover. Coming away, racing in third, that is Mara's Mojo. To the inside in fourth, that is Jenna Zonjodi. Inside in 5 is CJ's Connection, and sixth and trailing the field, Champagne Diva. As they step around the first turn and over to the opening quarter, and Ailey Hanover and Chip Noble clears to the front end here, leading it by a length and a half. On the inside, Sand Showgirl is going along into, and here comes the Budweiser Best Bet bet of the night. Mara's Mojo is up on the outside here through an opening quarter in 28 4/5. And Mara's Mojo and Dave Hawk has placed her on the front end here, leading it by a length and a half. On the inside, Ailey Hanover yield for a garden spot, racing in 2. Sand Showgirl races 3rd. Jenna's on Jody races 4. 5 to the inside, CJ's Connection in 6th and trailing the field, but a tip to the outside of Champagne Diva as they race around the clubhouse turn and step towards the half. On top, Mara's Mojo leads it here by a length and a quarter. On the inside, racing in 2nd, Ailey Hanover. They're halfway home in 1 minute flat. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Heads are pointed towards 3/4 with Mara's Mojo leading the way here by a length and 3/4. On the inside, Ailey Hanover's going along in 2. Champagne Diva is first up on the outside, racing in 3rd. Second over on the outside in 4th is Jenna's on Jody. Buried at the rail in 5 is Sand Showgirl in 6th, and trailing the field, CJ's Connection as they step towards the 3/4 mile mark of the race. And Mara's Mojo with the lead here through 3/4 in 1:30 2/5. Up on the outside, Champagne Diva could not go with her from 2nd. On the inside now, sliding through Ailey Hanover, and Sand Showgirl was racing in 3rd. Swung up 3 wide as Jenna's on Jody in 4th to the top of Power Alley. Less than an 1/8 of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come. Mara's Mojo with the lead here. They're not going to get to her this evening. Mara's Mojo, the Budweiser best bet of the night, scores here by 2 1/4. Finishing 2nd was the 4 Sand Showgirl. 3rd was the 6 Ailey Hanover. The top of the mile, 1:58 2/5. Mara's Mojo. So now your official winner of the 4th race, the 3rd leg of event number 7 for 2-year-old Pacing Fillies. Home winner in 1:58 2/5, remaining undefeated in her early career. She's 3 of 3, the one Mara's Mojo. A 2-year-old Bay Filly by Jenna's Beach Boy out of a Perfectly Honest mare. She by Big Towner. Zoned by Brent Allen and Misty Joe Perry of Medina, Ohio. Trained by Danny Perdue. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Dave Hawk. The one Mara's Mojo gives Dave Hawk a driving double on this evening's card. Derek Moore, please report to the grandstand office. Derek Moore, please report to the grandstand office. A field of 9. Number 1 is Lady Gracious, owned by Clarence. You can call me Sonny DeLong of Orient, Ohio. Trained by Daryl Hoosier with a K-man, Kane Kaufman. Number 2 is Little Joe, owned by Parker of Canal, Winchester, Ohio, and Berger of Columbus, Ohio. Trained by Douglas Parker, Bob Harper. Number 3 is Flannery Hall, owned by the Rolls Stable at Dundee, Ohio. Trained by Danny Collins, Dave Hawk. The 4 is Cyclonic, trained and driven by Marvin Purdy of Fredericktown, Ohio. Number 5 is Rhinestone Ring and Bell, trained and driven by William Heiser of Dublin, Ohio. The 6 Wall Street Classic is out sick. The 7 is Sturdiella, owned by the A to Z's Sales of Bettsville, Pennsylvania. Trained and driven by Jim Daly. The 8 is Quickly Took Over, owned by Elizabeth Brandt of Logan, Ohio. Trained and driven by Dave Myers. From the outside of the 9 is Power Hall, owned by Joseph Palermo III of Ocean Ridge, Florida. Trained by Jay Sears. Kyle Later is up. And the 10, scoring from off the 2nd tier, Sisters Winner K. The lessee is Robert Key and John Glassman of Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Trained by Jim Artledge Jr., Jeff Fout, Ian Herselke. Field in motion. They're all fan trotting and firing out for the lead. There goes the 5, Rhinestone Ring and Bell, who's driving out for command here. Sturdiella is also on the go. From the outside, there is Quickly Took Over and Power Hall, who's also joining these for the lead. Coming away, trotting in 5th there as they trot around the first turn. That is Little Joe. To the inside, trotting in 6th from off the 2nd tier is Sisters Winner K. 7th there, that is Flannery Hall. 8th along the inside, that is Cyclonic. And 9th and trailing the field is Lady Gracious, and the K-Man can see them all. The opening panel in 29 3/5. They trot by the stand for the first time and head on down to the half. And up on the outside, Power Hall is being placed on the front end here by Kyle Later and leads it by a length and a half now too. Rolling under the wire with 5/8 of the mile remaining, and Quickly Took Over is tracking him from 2nd. Rhinestone Ring and Bell is going along along in third. Sturdy Ella trots in fourth. First over on the outside, trotting in five is Sisters Winner K. To the inside, racing in sixth is Little Joe as they step around the clubhouse turn. Second over on the outside in seventh, that is Flannery Hall. They're halfway home in 59 and 1/5. A second panel at 29 and 3. Off the turn and driving down the backside, and Power Hall is on top here and leading it by a length and 3/4. To the inside, quickly took over, still there, trotting in the garden spot in two. Along the inside, Rhinestone Ring and Bell is trotting in third. To the outside in fourth, Sisters Winner K can't go on. Forcing up Flannery Hall, 3 deep, was fifth, now fourth, now third, and ranging over the outside as they go by 3/4 and 129 and 3/5. They'll trot the final turn and head for home, and Power Hall with the lead here quickly took over, has a ton of trot to the inside, is trotting in two. Up on the outside, Flannery Hall couldn't go with him. To the top of the stretch, less than an eighth of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come. Power Hall to the inside, quickly took over, is coming to him and coming on. Power Hall to the inside, quickly took over on the outside, quickly took over, is getting up to win it. Quickly took over in front. Power Hall to go second. Rhinestone Ring and Bell was third. Time of the mile, 2 minutes flat. Quickly took over. First win in 2003. The photo reveals 8-9-5-2 unofficial. Trackside of the winner's circle, the unofficial winner of the fifth race, number 8, quickly took over, scoring the first win in 2003, timed in 2 minutes flat, is a 7-year-old bay horse by Overcomer and of a smaller stride, she by Coleman Lopel, owned by Elizabeth Brandt of Logan, Ohio, trained and driven by Dave Myers. The 8 quickly took over in David Myers, 2 minutes flat. 8-9 exacta, 309.60. 8-9-5 try, returns $6,730.80. Pick 3, 3 of 3, 344 even. Field of 6. The 1 is Lucky Sight, owned and trained by Brian Jones of Greenville, Ohio, with Kane Kaufman. Number 2 is Matilda Sage, owned by Michael Bardo, Bradford, Ohio, trained by Dan Perdue. Jim Daly is up. The 3 is Powerlicious by Sterling Brook Farms Incorporated, Sheltonville, Massachusetts, trained by Jim Artledge Jr., Dave Hawk. The 4 is Sand Dream Bunny, owned by Bill Sanders of Stevenson, Alabama, trained by the Big T, Terry Tim Holton. Kyle Later is up. The 5, Smokin' Pistol, is out sick. The 6 is Absolute Monarch, owned by Larry Coder of Marysville, Ohio, trained and driven by Bob Harper. For the outside of the 7 is Wine, Roses, and Candy, owned by Robert Berger of San Jose, California, trained by Peter Foley, Jeff Ace Nicesonger, Ian Hersalke. Field in motion. They're all fan pacing and firing away from the inside. There goes the 2, Matilda Sage. From the outside, Wine, Roses, and Candy break the 1, Lucky Sight, before the start as they race around the first turn and over to the opening quarter. Wine, Roses, and Candy, and Ace Nicesonger crosses right on over, takes the lead by 2. To the inside, racing in second, Matilda Sage. Away in third is Powerlicious. To the inside in fourth, that is Sand Dream Bunny. Fifth, there is Lucky Sight. And sixth, and trailing the field, that is Absolute Monarch, and Bob Harper can see them all as they move by the opening quarter in 29 and 4/5. A field of 6 2-year-old pacing fillies are passing the stand for the first time and heading on down to the half, with Wine, Roses, and Candy and Nicesonger leading the way here by a length and a half. Along the inside, Matilda Sage is going along into, rolling into the wire with 5/8 of a mile remaining. Powerlicious remains in third. Fourth is Sand Dream Bunny. To the inside in 5 is Lucky Sight. In sixth and trailing the field, Absolute Monarch, as they step around the clubhouse turn and race on over to the half. Wine, Roses, and Candy, your 4 to 5. Punter's Choice leads them to the half. They're halfway home in a pedestrian 102 flat. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Wine, Roses, and Candy, but now up on the outside, here's Lucky Sight. And Lucky Sight tried powering to the frontier. Wine, Roses, and Candy, and Nice Songer will not be caught off guard there. Lucky Sight to the outside. Wine Roses and Candy battles back gamely at the rail. To the inside, and Lucky Sight to go two. Along the inside, Matilda Sage races in third. Powerlicious racing in fourth. 3/4 on the board in 1:31 flat. Backside, 29 seconds as they'll pace the final turn and head for home. To the inside with the lead, Wine Roses and Candy with the lead here and is widened it and opening up by 5 to the top of Power Alley. Less than an eighth of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come. Wine Roses and Candy, she looks very impressive here. The 2-year-old brown filly by Jenna's Beach Boy at a romantic gesture. She by JLo. Very impressive here. Second win of her career. Finishing second, the 3 Powerlicious. Third was the 2 Matilda Sage, the time of the mile, 1:59 2/5. Wine Roses and Candy in a new lifetime mark. An objection filed. 2 against 3 on the unofficial second place finisher. There's an objection here. The 2 against the 3 for possible interference just past 3/4. Well, trackside of the winner's circle, the unofficial winner of the 6th race, the 3rd leg of event number 7 for 2-year-old pacing fillies. The 7 Wine Roses and Candy. A 2-year-old brown filly by Jenna's Beach Boy out of a romantic gesture. She by JLo. Owned by Robert Berger of San Jose, California. Trained by Guess Who? Peter Foley. Driven to victory by Jeff Ace Nicesonger. That's 2 wins on this afternoon, or this evening's card for conditioner Peter Foley. 2 wins on this evening's card for driver Jeff Nicesonger, giving them a conditioning and driving double. Down of the mile, 1:59 2 for the 7 Wine Roses and Candy, gives her a new lifetime mark. The 1 is expected return, owned by John McDonough, Springfield, Ohio, trained by Chris Justice with Kyle Leader. Number 2 is Mark of Confusion with the E&L stable at Dayton, Ohio, trained by Steve Hughes with the K-Man, Kane Kaufman. Number 3 is Tyler's Cracker Jacks, owned by Karen Walski of Ida, Michigan, trained by Daniel Walski with Jeff Fout. The 4 is Fritzy JLo, owned by McHenry, Fritz, and Fritz. They're all the Buckeye State, trained by Richard Fritz with Bob Harper. The 5 is Branchwater, owned by Thomas Noble of Toledo, Ohio, trained by Jeff Brewer, Jason Brewer at the lines. The 6 is On Guard, owned by Hank and Sally Joseph of Washington Township, Ohio, trained and driven by Mark Evers. The 7 is Fly Man, owned by Calvin Lamb of Marion, Ohio, trained and driven by Bobby Arnett. The 8 is Square Jack, my Bud Light long shot of the night, owned by Kathleen Ratcliffe of Orient, Ohio, and Jerry Zozo of Columbus, Ohio, trained by Delvin Criswell, Jeff Nicesonger. The 9 is Sugar Valley Dooley, owned by Dale Walters of Delaware, Ohio, trained and driven by Billy Walters, and scoring from off the second tier, number 10, Corsair Hanover, owned by Iris Horowitz of Brooklyn, New York, trained by Tim Rucker, Sam Chip Noble III, and the Sulky. That's the field for the 7th race. Start, field in motion. They're all fan pacing and firing away from the inside. There goes the 2, Mark of Confusion, who's headed up for command there. Right alongside Tyler's Cracker Jacks, also driving out is On Guard and stuck out there 3 wide of the first turn. That is Square Jack and rolling on there. Coming away, racing in 5th, that is Fritzy JLo, 6th on the inside, expected return. 7th there on the inside of Branchwater. Coming away, racing in 8th, that is Fly Man. 9th on the inside there as they race by the opening quarter is Sugar Valley Dooley. Opening panel in 27 2/5, and onto the front end tier and on top. That's On Guard with the lead here. Jumping it off was Tyler's Cracker Jacks. Along the inside, Mark of Confusion is going along in 2. Square Jack is racing in 3rd. First to Flush on the outside. Here comes Corsair Hanover. Was 4th, now 3rd, now 2nd, advancing up on the outside of the leader as they race around the clubhouse, turning on over to the half. On Guard with the lead here. Corsair Hanover up on the outside of the leader's wheel disc in 2. The halfway home in 57 2/5. Off the turn and driving down the backside. On Guard leads the way here. Corsair Hanover to the outside is in 2. Along the inside, Mark of Confusion is racing in 3rd. A 2nd over the outside in 4th. That's your 1 to 2 punter's choice. Fritzy JLo, 5th on the inside of there. That is Square Jack, a gap of 4 lengths, racing in 6th. That is expected return. 7th, that is Branchwater. 8th on the outside of there. That is Sugar Valley Dooley. 9th along the rail. That is Fly Man. And way back to the trailer here, Tyler's Cracker Jacks, 3/4 up in 1:26 2/5. They'll pace the final turn and head to the top of the stretch. Corsair Hanover finally clear to the front. Fritzy JLo is there and coming to him and coming on to the top of the stretch. Less than an eighth of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come. Corsair hand over to the inside. Fritzy JLo is coming to him and coming on as they roll within the final 16th. Fritzy JLo gets up to win it. Corsair hand over to go second. Going to be very close for third here. May have been the 6 on guard over the 2. Mark of confusion. The time of the mile 1:57 2/5. Fritzy JLo to the 4. Fritzy JLo. A 3-year-old bake owned by Cam's Magic Trick out of a rain shelter. She by Stormed Image. Owned by McHenry, Fritz and Fritz. They're all the Buckeye State. Trained by Richard Fritz. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Bob Harper. First win of his career. 1:57 2/5 to the 4. Fritzy JLo. Welcome back. Country Star, owned by Donna Bowen of Mount Sterling, Ohio, trained by Jesse Bowen with Jim Daly. Number 2 is Jet Smoke Joe, owned by Kevin McQuinn of Cincinnati, Ohio, trained and driven by Scott McQuinn. Number 3 is Sweet Sam, with the Bed Stable, Sunbury, Ohio, trained by Daryl Hoosier with the K-Man, Kane Kaufman. The 4 is Saxton Soul by Shasho Stanovsky of Gahanna, Ohio, trained and driven by Bob Harper. Number 5 is I'm a Believer, owned by the National Trail Investment Company Incorporated of Bean Station, Tennessee, trained by Dan Ader, Kyle Ader at the lines. The 6 is Carolina Robert, owned by Jane Cummins of Lexington, Kentucky, trained by Eric Reese. Jeff Fount is up. The 7 Tizzo is out sick. The 8 is Beach Assault, owned by the AWS Stables of Lima, Ohio, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr., Dan Noble. From the outside of the 9 is Jim and Jerry, owned by Glenna and Robin Schmidt of Salina, Ohio, trained by Bruce Schmidt. Bruce Schmidt is up. And scoring from off the second tier is the 10, Andrew's Dreams. Now, this just happens to be Jeff Cahill's Bud Light long shot of the night. He's currently 2-1 by Ronald Level, Westerville, Ohio. Nicely trained and driven, Justin Hall in the sulky. That's the field for the 8th race. Field in motion. They're all fan pacing and firing away. Middle of the track, there goes the 4 Saxton Soul, who's pushing the gate away there. Driving up from the outside, Carolina Robert. From the inside, Sweet Sam is on the go. From off the rail, West Country Star has come away in 4th. From off the second tier in 5 is Andrew's Dreams. There in 6th, that is Jet Smoke Joe. 7th along the rail, that is I Am a Believer. 8th there on the inside, Beach Assault. In 9th and trailing the field, Jim and Jerry and Bruce Schmidt can see them all as they move by the opening quarter in 27 4/5. Onto the front end, Carolina Robert, and Fount clears with this one, leading it by a length and a half. Along the inside, Saxton Soul is racing in 2. Sweet Sam looks like he'll be taking the long mile, the outside in 3. Along the inside in 4th is West Country Star. Second over on the outside in 5 is second tier horse, Andrew's Dreams. Up on the outside, racing in 6th, I Am a Believer. 7th there along the rail, that is Jet Smoke Joe. To the outside, racing in 8th, that is Beach Assault. In 9th and trailing the field, Jim and Jerry. They're halfway home, 57 4/5. A well-rated second, Panoa 30 seconds flat. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Heads are pointed towards 3/4 with Carolina Roberts leading the way here. Saxton Soul along the inside is racing in second. Now swung up 3 wide down the backside. Andrew's Dreams is now at the leader's wheel disc in 2. Along the inside, Saxton Soul is going along in 3rd. Not going on in 4th is Sweet Sam. 5th is West Country Star. 6th out there is I'm a Believer. 3/4 in 1:27 1. They'll pace the final turn and head for home. And Carolina Robert and Fount pops the earplugs out on this one. And with the lead here to the inside, Saxton Soul is absolutely cocked, locked, and ready to rock. Rolling to the top of Heartbreak Lane. Less than an 1/8 of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come. Carolina Robert with the lead. Saxton Soul is trying to come to him, but as they drive within the final 16th, Carolina Robert in front. West Country Star to go second. Saxton Soul was 3rd. Time of the mile 1:57 2/5. Carolina Robert. And best out of a Shannon Bath, she by Trenton. Owned by Jane Cummins of Lexington, Kentucky. Trained by Eric Reese. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Jeff Fount. Second win in his career. Home winner in 1:57 2. The 6 Carolina Robert. Ladies and gentlemen, please note the inquiry sign has been posted against the unofficial second place finisher, number 1 West Country Star, for possible violation of being inside the hump rail at the top of the stretch. Possible IHR violation at the top of the stretch against the 1 West Country Star, the unofficial second place finisher. The 6 Carolina Robert, 157 2/5. Was second, disqualified, in place third for IHR violation inside the hub rail at the top of the stretch. 6-4-1-9, your revised order of finish is now official. First half of the late daily double. Field of 9 stretched the 7 Beaumont Judges. The 1 is Gigabyte Bluegrass, owned by William Silcott of Orient, Ohio, trained by Karen Seifert. Dave Hawk is up. The 2 is Hammer and Dan, owned by Ronald Ross of Staffordsville, Kentucky, trained by Jeff Brewer, Jason Brewer at the lines. The 3 is Oh Man, owned, trained, and driven by Bobby Arnett of Cardington, Ohio. The 4 is Good Time Johnny, owned and trained by Bucky Trout of Washington Courthouse, Ohio, with Daniel Noble. Number 5 is Falkirk, owned by Roy Swaney of Spring Valley, Ohio, trained by David Loft. Jeff Fout is up. The 6 is Tricky Surprise, owned by Richard Hokinson of Midway, Kentucky, trained by Tommy Lee Smith with Jeff Ace Niceonger. Number 7, Beaumont is out. Judges. The 8 is Latta Jones, owned by Vernon Byers Jr., Mechanicsburg, Ohio, trained by James Byers. Jim Daly is up. From the outside of the 9 is SF Patriot, owned by Sandra Hall of Chillicothe, Ohio, trained and driven by Justin Hall. And scoring from off the second tier is number 10, Vincello Hanover, by Carl Mayberry Jr. of Alexandria, Kentucky, trained by George Owens, Bob Harper, and the Sulky. Beaumont Judges. Field swings to the back stretch. They're approaching the start. Field in motion. They're all fan pacing and firing away. Middle of the track, there goes the 4, Good Time Johnny. Right alongside it, a little rough gated there, Falkirk. Along the inside, racing in third. That is Gigabyte Bluegrass. Coming away, racing in fourth. That is Vincello Hanover. As they step around the first turn and over to the opening quarter. Away in 5 is Hammer and Dan. 6, that is Oh Man. 7th there, that is Tricky Surprise. 8th along the inside is Latta Jones, and 9th and trailing the field, that is SF Patriot. And Justin Hall can see them all as they march by the opening quarter in 27 4/5. And Good Time Johnny with the lead here, but now ranging up on the outside, here comes Gigabyte Bluegrass, and Gigabyte Bluegrass is looking for the front end tier as they roll under the wire with 5/8 of a mile remaining, and Gigabyte Bluegrass is hard pressed to clear the front end tier. Good Time Johnny along the inside, and a little bit of late night hard ball as they step around the clubhouse, turning on over to the half, and from the inside with the lead, Good Time Johnny won't let Gigabyte Bluegrass go. They're halfway home in 57 seconds flat. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Heads are pointed towards 3/4. Up on the outside, Gigabyte Bluegrass by a head. Along the inside, Good Time Johnny is battling back, swung up 3 wide on the outside. There's Vincello Hanover to the outside, racing in fourth. Hammer and Dan backing through the field in 5 is Falkirk. 6th out there is Oh Man. 7th is swung up 3 wide. There's Latta Jones with his patented late kick is on the move. 3/4 in 1:26 2/5. They'll pace the final turn and head for home. To the inside, Good Time Johnny, but now over the outside, Vincello Hanover ready to swing 3 wide. From the outside is Hammer and Dan, and up 4 wide is Latta Jones, and out 5 wide on the outside as they turn to the top of the stretch is SF Patriot. Less than 1/8 of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come. Vincello Hanover strikes the front end here. Hammer and Dan, and way out wide, SF Patriot is charging hard and coming on. SF Patriot gets up to win it. Finishing second was the 2, Hammer and Dan. It was close for a third. Down with a mile, 1:56 3/5. SF Patriot, new lifetime mark. Trackside of the winner's circle, the official winner of the 9th race, claiming handicap pace at 45-1. Here's the 9, SF Patriot, scoring the second win in 2003 and a new lifetime mark, 1:56 3/5. The 9, SF Patriot, is a 5-year-old brown gelding by Cam Terrific out of a now a Yankee. She by Beachy's Bunny, owned by Sandra Hall of Chillicothe, Ohio. Nicely trained and driven by Justin Hall. SF Patriot, new lifetime mark, 1:56 3. Pick 3, 3 of 3, 3:16.20. Exacta 9-2, 748.20. Set 928 try, $1,631.40. pari-mutuel starts. Winners over 7,500, it should read, winners over 7,500 in 2003 are not eligible. Field of 10, no changes. Post time, 10:51. A field of 10, no changes. The one is Jake Daniels, owned by Jonathan Gordon of Champaign, Illinois, trained by Marlon Smith, Kane Kaufman. Number 2 is Irish Renegade, owned and trained by John Perrin of Lebanon, Ohio, Jeff Nysonger. The 3 is Kentucky Kid, owned by Debbie Geiler of Pataskala, Ohio, trained and driven by Sandy Beatty. The 4 is SL Command, by Walski of Ida, Michigan, and Amerheim of Temperance, Michigan, trained by Dan Walski, Jeff Fout. The 5 is Jock Osborne, owned and trained by Gary Masajewski of Lebanon, Ohio, Kyle Later. The 6 is Helsa Sam, by the Shout Stable of Pompano Beach, Florida, trained and driven by Rick Shout. The 7 is Nice Connection, by John Wiley of Richwood, Ohio, trained and driven by Bob Harper. The 8 is Whiskey Sour, by Edward Kopiak and Michelle Kopiak of Pennsylvania and Ohio, trained and driven by Ron Taubert. From the outside of the 9 is Tucson Guy, by Gary Adams of Circleville, Ohio, trained by Jerry Kuchbach, Dave Hawk, and scoring from off the second tier is number 10, Attack Mission, owned and trained by Eddie Pulling of Lebanon, Ohio, Danny Noble. In the sulky. In the finale, field in motion. Superfecta Pacers being sent on their way. They're all fan pacing and firing from the outside. There goes Tucson Guy driving up in between horses. That is SL Command. Kentucky Kid is away nicely here. Looks like he'll be getting in there in second. Dropping in third is SL Command. Dropping in, racing in fourth is Helsa Sam. Away in 5, Jake Daniels. Dropping in 6, Nice Connection. 7th from off the second tier, that is Attack Mission. Caught to the outside in 8th is Jock Osborne. 9th there is Irish Renegade, and 10th and trailing the field, Whiskey Sour, and Taubert can see them all as they step by the opening quarter in 28-1, and your even money favorite Kentucky Kid is up to grab the lead here. First trainer driver Sandy Beatty leads it here by length and a half. Along the inside, Tucson Guy is racing in second, rolling under the wire with 5/8 of a mile remaining. SL Command racing in third. Fourth, that is Helsa Sam. First over on the outside in 5, parked every step there. That is Jock Osborne along the inside, and 6th is Jake Daniels. 7th there on the outside, Attack Mission. As they step around the clubhouse, turning on over to the half, and Kentucky Kid took him to the half in 58 3/5. A second panel with 30 3. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Their long journey towards 3/4 has begun in the finale. And on top, Kentucky Kid leads it here by length and a half. Along the inside, going along in 2, that is Tucson Guy. Along the inside, racing in third, that is Jock Osborne. The inside racing in fourth, SL Command. As they step towards the 3/4 mile mark of the race, on top, Kentucky Kid and Sandy Beatty is sitting there chilly through 3/4 in 1:27 3/5. They'll pace the final turn and head to the top of the stretch with Kentucky Kid calling the shots here. To the inside, Tucson Guy has begun to labor just a bit in 2. To the outside in third is Jock Osborne. To the top of Power Alley, less than 1/8 of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come in the finale. On top of the field with the lead, Kentucky Kid. Jock Osborne is trying to reel him in, but inside the final 16th, Kentucky Kid in front. Finishing second was the 5, Jock Osborne. It's close for third at the time of the mile, 1:57 1/5. Kentucky Kid back to winning ways. Officials stepping trackside of the winner's circle. The official winner of the 10th and final race. He's back to winning ways. Here's the 3, Kentucky Kid. An 8-year-old bay gelding by Kentucky's Spirit of Annalise Thunder. She by Tyler B. Owned by Debbie Geiler of Pataskala, Ohio. Nicely trained and driven by Sandy Beatty. The 3, Kentucky Kid. Home winner at 1:57 1/5. Late double, 9-3, 71-20. Late pick 3, we'll get back to that. 3-5 exact to 22.80. 3-5-9 try, 214 even. 3-5-9-4 super, $940.40. Pick 3, 3 of 3. 226.60.